After all the hype that you've heard over the course of the last 2 years about the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, we're proud to announce our new venture, the Women of Conservation Calendar, that showcases and celebrates the women that helped defeat Proposition 127. 14 months of the calendar of all of the women that helped, plus more, the convention dates, deadlines, draw application dates, commission meetings, and things going on at the Colorado State Capitol. This is an opportunity to support CRWM and the efforts that we continually work on through the Colorado State Capitol, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission, and to address all of the ballot issues that continually arise. We've got some fantastic sponsors that help prop up and just showcase who these women are. Rodeo queens, barrel racers, houndswomen, general sportsmen, mothers, and every avocation you could think, from archery hunting to muzzleloading to rifle hunting and waterfowl as well. These women stuck their necks out to help save the hunt. Get it for yourself. It makes a great gift. Make sure you get it before Christmas, and look at all the other important dates that are coming up. $24.95, SaveTheHuntColorado.com.
Through the Gates is produced under the support of the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management to enhance, promote, and defend the North American model of wildlife conservation and responsible wildlife management. That's our mission. We're engaged in fighting at every level so that wildlife management remains science-based and conservation continues to work for our wildlife. To learn more and join the movement, visit SaveTheHuntColorado.com. The North American model of wildlife conservation is the greatest conservation model in the world. It's a success story that should be shared and celebrated because everybody is a part of it.
Well, I recently returned back from Chadron, Nebraska, where I had a chance to do an interview with the director of the Museum of the Fur Trade there in Chadron. The museum opened in 1955. And for people that are interested in the fur trade itself, it covers about 700 years of the actual fur trade across most of the world, a lot of it across the North American continent. We did some interviews and we did some spots about some of the different cabinets that they've got, some of the different displays, but it's a pretty comprehensive display over I think there's about 300 different cases, 300 different types of firearms, and it covers everything from the Russian side to the British side, the exploration side from the 1640s all the way up into the early 1900s, and how the fur trade is actually formulated over the course of the last 500 or 600 years, specifically the last 200 years on North America. If you get a chance, you need to watch it on YouTube because we've got some really good displays, and there's a video that we're going to play during the YouTube side of this that will explain a little bit of the history that the museum actually did as well. It's about a 10-minute video. But we just thought, given the things that are going on in Colorado, about the fur bearer management discussion, about the beaver statewide management plan, this would be a good time to give people a little bit of a background on the history of the fur trade and how it's actually been part of humans over the course of the last 1,800 years, but specifically in this, about the last 700 years. We hope you enjoy it.
Long before the thundering cattle drives and raucous mining camps of the Wild West, before the first Conestoga wagons rolled westward on the Oregon and Santa Fe trails, even before the stern pilgrims stepped from the Mayflower onto Plymouth Rock, the North American continent was abuzz with business, the business of furs. The history of North America's oldest business encompasses infinitely more than buffalo robes, fur coats, and beaver hats. It's the story of the exploration of an entire continent, of international intrigue and war, of fortunes made and lost, and of a free enterprise system that helped create nations. It's the story of kings and commoners, of John Jacob Astor, founder of the American Fur Company, and America's first multimillionaire, of James Stewart, the governor of the Hudson's Bay Company, who became King of England, and of William Clark, explorer, territorial governor, Indian agent, and president of the Missouri Fur Company. The fur trade is the story of countless hardy souls who labored together for mutual benefit. References to the fur trade are older than the Bible and appear in the writings of the ancient Greeks. In the Middle Ages, the Vikings traded European furs to the Byzantines of Constantinople. Native tribes in Siberia produced incredible numbers of furs for the Chinese. By 1500, the European furs were exhausted, but just after Columbus's voyage to the New World, fishing fleets from Western Europe found vast schools of cod off the North American coast, and while drying their catch ashore, sailors began buying furs from the Indians. In no time, European ships were coming not for fish, but for furs. The Indians were sophisticated traders. In prehistoric times, they had trading routes that ran from coast to coast. But the European brought the Iron Age to the New World. He brought knives and axes, woolen blankets and cotton shirts, glass beads and bright paints. For the Indians and Eskimos, better tools made work easier. Guns made hunting more certain. Cloth, beads, and paints opened up new vistas of artistic expression. All the traders wanted were furs, which were of use to the Indians for clothing and shelter, but little beyond that. Actually, Europe needed furs. Not only were they worn by wealthy and titled aristocrats, furs were essential in the days before furnaces and central heating. Everyone, soldiers included, needed waterproof hats that could be made from the fur of the beaver. Of course, even hats became fashion statements for the rich and the famous. In 1600, the French built the very first trading post at Tadoussac, Quebec, to trade for furs the year round. Within a decade, they were followed first by the English, then the Dutch, and the Swedes. The globalization of trade is not a new idea. It started way back during the Renaissance. No individual was rich enough to bear the costs of world trade alone, so nations chartered companies to pool their resources and share the risks in far-off places like China and Brazil. The Dutch West India Company, Hudson's Bay Company, Company of the Hundred Associates, and Russian-American Company were just a few of the companies created to bring furs to Europe. The commercial rivalries led to international friction. By the 1660s, only the two most powerful countries, England and France, remained to face each other. The nation that controlled the fur trade, and with it the loyalty of the Indian tribes, could claim ownership of vast regions of the continent. By the 1690s, French and English traders were chafing against one another from Hudson's Bay to the Gulf of Mexico. Wars between the two nations and their Indian allies broke out repeatedly for 60 years. The last one, ignited by disagreements over trade in the Ohio Valley, lasted 7 years and spread to Africa and Asia as well. The end of it in 1763 saw the expulsion of France from Canada and Louisiana. The French traders were gone from Canada, but their place was taken by British traders who organized the Northwest Company. Headed by Simon McTavish, it strode like a colossus across the continent, its supplies and furs moving in armadas of birch bark canoes paddled by Canadian voyageurs. One of its partners, Alexander Mackenzie, became the first person to cross the continent, 10 years ahead of Lewis and Clark. Soon there was a great rush to tap the rich fur resources of the Pacific Northwest. An American, John Jacob Astor, beat the Canadians to the punch by founding Astoria at the mouth of the mighty Columbia. But why the rush? It was for all the tea in China. There wasn't much the Chinese wanted, but they loved furs. Astor's American Fur Company made him millions. However, there was always plenty of competition from energetic businessmen like Pierre Chateau Jr., Robert Campbell, William Ashley, and the genius behind the Missouri Fur Company, Manuel Lisa. Even the United States government got into the Indian business. Sure that the Indians were being cheated by the traders, President George Washington and Congress set up a string of trading posts to give the Indians a fair shake. The Office of Indian Trade turned out to be a financial disaster. The Indian business wasn't quite so easy as the politicians thought. Then came the mountain men, those larger-than-life heroes of the Rocky Mountains, from faraway places like Scotland, Germany, France, and even Hawaii. They were every color and creed. These icons of our folklore, men like Jim Bridger, Kit Carson, and Jim Beckworth, and hundreds more, trapped every stream in the West and drew its map on a beaver skin. Most Plains Indians refused to trap beaver, so when the beaver gave out, the trading companies moved back on the plains, buying millions of buffalo robes from the horse tribes like the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Comanche. The beautiful robes were used by Eastern folk for carriage robes, winter overcoats, and bed covers. As Canada and the United States settled up, the Indians, who supplied the furs, were pushed further and further west, then onto reservations. By 1890, the fur trade was done in America. In Canada, where the old Hudson's Bay and Northwest companies had finally joined forces, the trade moved north to the Arctic. As late as the 1950s, there were hundreds of trading posts still operating from Alaska across Canada to Greenland. The fur trade is full of myths. The myth of the swindling trader is buried deep in our folklore, but most did what they needed in order to earn their customers' business by supplying good merchandise at a fair price. The Indians themselves expressed pride that traders competed to satisfy their needs. The fur traders explored our continent and laid out our transportation routes. The trading posts they built were the seeds that grew into great cities and small towns. The trader married into the tribes they served and became trusted advisors, interpreters, husbands, and fathers. Often enough, their wives, widows, sons, and daughters became traders as well. Many of today's native leaders trace their lineage to one or more of the old fur men. There are still over 70,000 trappers in the United States and Canada, plus thousands more working on fur farms and designing, manufacturing, and retailing fur garments. The fur trade isn't gone, it's just changed a lot. Today it's an ecologically sound, billion-dollar industry that produces beautiful merchandise. In times past, the fur trade was an essential part of national policy, used to build economic vitality and to promote racial harmony. Would that it could perform that same magic among us today.
Well, we're here for another episode of Through the Gates to Save the Hunt, and I am pleased to say that we are here at the Museum of the Fur Trade in Chadron, Nebraska, with NaKaya Fester, the director of the museum, correct?
Yes.
And so we appreciate you taking a little bit of time to give us a tour, and we're going to try to enlighten people that want to listen to this and that are viewing this about the history of the fur trade, but how it is actually incorporated into part of our other stories that we do on beaver management and fur bearer management in the state of Colorado. So give us a little bit of rundown. So you've been the director here for how long?
10 years.
In the background of what you've done, give us a little bit of a prelude of where you came from and how you got into this.
I grew up locally. Hemingford's about 40 miles away, and I went to college here at Chadron State. I had worked with the previous director's husband at Fort Robinson at summers through college, and when they retired to Lincoln, Nebraska full-time, it was mid-season, and they needed someone to kind of help out to get through the end of the year.
So did you have a particular interest in the fur trade or that particular era?
No, I like history and museum studies was my minor, but fur trade's not a big part of it.
But it's become a little bit more as far you becoming more institutionally knowledgeable about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as I read and learn, but I'm not going to go out and dress up and do the research and write publications of my own.
No, but you get a lot of reenactors probably that come through here as far as trying to do the historical training or information finding, correct?
We do, yeah. We have, I mean, a lot of great artifacts that are unique that people like to come in and base their stuff off of. They like to look at the original and then reproduce their own. And Chadron does Fur Trade Days, which is the second weekend in July every year. And they set up a rendezvous camp. So we get a lot of people coming through then.
Is that right on site or is it somewhere else?
It's all mostly in town. The camp is a mile farther from here. So we're kind of an in-between point.
How many people do you get to show up for Fur Trade Days?
Fur Trade Days in town gets thousands of people. They have live concerts and historic events and that kind of stuff. We get 500-600 people from that.
So you're probably pretty busy that weekend.
Yeah, it's a great weekend for us.
And so you're right on Highway 20 here, east of Chadron.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the site is on the original trading post. Was it the Bordeaux trading post?
Yeah, so the Bordeaux post has been reconstructed on its original footings. They did the archaeology. There were a couple of guys who had been in the original as kids, and they were able to come out and help verify everything. And it's actually on the National Register of Historic Places, which is a rarity for reconstructed sites.
Very big.
Yeah.
Very big deal. And the building here was actually built when?
The museum opened in 1955. It was just a small U-shaped building, and then it's expanded several times over the years.
And what are some of the coolest things that you guys have for display here?
My favorite thing is a chief factor's sword. So they were swords that were given to the governors of the Hudson Bay Company. 18 of them were made about. They're engraved, so we can trace who this sword belongs to, and we have his service record. And then the other item that we're pretty excited about is this year we got a 6 foot by 9 foot, it's like a Marine flag. So it's the type of flag that would have been used by the American Fur Company. It's got, instead of the 50 stars, it's got an eagle with 13 stars. And they used that because then every time a state was added, they didn't have to get a new flag.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And how old is that?
It's Civil War.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the artifacts that you have in here have been acquired or donated by history buffs of the fur trade era, but some of the stuff goes all the way back into the 1700s.
Absolutely. We're privately funded, so everything we get comes from sales, donations, memberships, and that allows us to buy and sell pieces to fit our story rather than making our story fit the pieces. So a good portion is purchased, but, as people, collectors, pass away or get older, they want their collection to stay together or to go somewhere that it will be appreciated. And so we did a lot of donations that way.
And you probably have one of the finest collections of firearms for that era of anywhere.
We have the largest collection of Northwest guns. Those are trade guns that were made specifically for trade with the Indians anywhere in the world.
And it's interesting, when my wife and I walked through yesterday, and we were here 30 some odd years ago, but you've expanded extensively since then. But looking through it and walking through yesterday, you kind of give a timeline on the history side of it. You look at the Russian side or the British side or the early American side, and it tells the story of the fur trade by itself, where a lot of people think of the mountain men for a 20-year period, but this is much broader. Absolutely.
We cover 500 years of history and the entire North American continent. So it does talk about Russia and England and how they traded with the North American tribes. But we start clear back with religious fasting days, when they were coming over for fish. And that kind of opened up and started the initial fur trade, and comes clear up through the modern fur trade.
If you had somebody come in, you'd probably get a lot of foreign travelers.
We do, yeah. Germans are really interested in this kind of stuff. We get Italian, some French.
And do you find that sometimes foreign travelers are a little bit more knowledgeable about the fur trade era, than some of the people here in the United States?
We do, yeah, because, they come because it's an interest for them. They specifically search us out. A lot of their normal visitors is just people driving by and they stop.
And if you were to guess, the average age of people that come through here, they're probably not 18 or 20, are they?
No, most of them are 50s, 60s.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of retired couples passing through, but we do get quite a few families in the summer. Again, a lot of it's Highway 20 traffic, so people who are stopping on their way to the Chadron or the Black Hills going through.
What's your favorite piece here?
Probably that Chief Factor sword.
Yeah, that's a cool deal. Now, one thing I saw in there, and we'll try to get some footage of it. You have a 36-foot canoe. It's a freight canoe.
Yes, so it's what the Voyagers would have been used coming down the Great Lakes. It is a reproduction. It was built specifically for a museum in Wisconsin, and when that museum closed, we were able to acquire it.
And that's a birch bark canoe, isn't it?
Birch bark, and it is a modern recreation, but it's built by the descendants of the people that would have originally built
That's
those.
a big canoe.
Yeah.
It's a great big canoe.
It's about 200 pounds full, but it's also light enough that it can be carried by about 2 men when it's empty.
Really?
Yeah.
And when we were walking through yesterday, you guys have such an exquisite way of displaying this. Is some of that through your guidance and leadership and your home decorating skills?
No, our historian, Jim Hansen, his father's the one that started the museum, did work at the Smithsonian, and he's worked at the Nebraska State Historical Society. So he's got that background knowledge. 50 plus years, he's the one that does our exhibits.
You got one whole room that's got Hudson Bay point blankets in there that look like they came right out of the mill.
Yeah, a lot of items, some of them did come right from the mill, they're reproductions, but a lot of items, when trading posts closed down, they were just abandoned a lot of times. So people are still able to go back through, and obviously not the case with the blankets, they would have been deteriorated, but they can go back through and they find these items in the original posts, and then they sell them or donate them.
Do you find people that come in that want to donate other things that maybe just off the wall that you just didn't ever realize that those people had those things, and they didn't realize that you guys were around until they found you?
We did a lot of firearms, but not just kind of random stuff. No.
What seems to be the most interesting part of this when travelers come through? I mean, are they enamored with specific things that everybody attracts, or just everybody's got a little bit of different flavor?
The gun room is one of the first things you see. So we get a lot of people that are straight into there. But we have a great textile collection. So we have sewers and people who like to go in there and see it. We get a lot of people who they stop for their husbands, and then they realize how extensive our collection is and end up enjoying it too.
And then you've got a membership that you can turn around and participate in as well, from different levels of membership.
Yep, our basic level they run January through December. You get free admission to the museum and 4 quarterlies a year. And those quarterlies are all based on fur trade related items or, of the era. And then the levels go clear up through a lifetime membership, where you also receive our 6-book encyclopedia set, which they each individually categorize a specific part of the fur trade.
Those are big books.
Those are big books. Yep, they're 400 plus pages each.
A lot of color photos.
Yes.
And if somebody wanted to get a membership or into that for the books or whatever, they can get online for that?
It is available online. We also take a lot of phone orders.
Really? There's a lot of people you probably deal with now that still don't have a lot of online access just because of the age factor.
Yeah.
Do you think that the interest in the fur trade era is stable and growing, or do you think that it's diminishing just because of population, the cycle of attrition?
No, I think it's pretty stable. People get their children into it and they enjoy it and then bring their children. So like reenactors come from all different generations because they've been doing it their whole lives.
Really? Well, let's go outside, find a couple different exhibits and try to get a little bit of background on those.
Okay.
So we're standing in one of your firearm alleys here, and give us a little bit of rundown on what people could expect to see when they come in, and what era that they're looking at, and what sort of weapons.
So these are all either flintlock or percussion guns, and there's 300 plus of them in our collection. The ones in our fire room are all trade guns for the most part, Northwest guns. They all have a certain serpent side plate, and so that wasn't necessarily indicative of anything, except the Native Americans saw that as a mark of quality. they didn't want to trade with the Duns if they didn't have that mark. We do have Duns that can be traced to specific people in this room. We have Red Cloud's Dun, Tecumseh's Dun, Kit Carson's, things that we can specifically trace heritage and lineage of.
And a lot of these are smooth bore or they're rifled?
I don't know enough
Yeah.
about guns to know that.
So what we saw yesterday was a lot of trade guns, the smooth bore, but then a lot of the rifled guns as well. You can see the extensive collection, and this is just part of it. It's not like all of it. This is just part of it with what you have.
Yeah, there's 300 plus in our entire museum, most of them in this room.
And I imagine a lot of people end up spending time in these rooms.
Absolutely. The gun room is one of the first things you see. And so we get a lot of firearm enthusiasts who just go through and look at it. Again, I don't know much about museums. Guns I don't care much about guns. But
you just know it's a piece of history and you appreciate that part of it, probably.
Absolutely. But we get people who know the makers and the blacksmith marks, and they go through and they look for specific things.
And what are in the drawers down here?
Weapons. Some of them are handguns. Some of them are powder bags, powder horns, gunpowder cans.
This is done very, very well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's a powder horn collection.
Yeah.
That is a powder horn collection. And the different locks. Why don't you show me one of the, you said you have some of those guns that are traced back to individuals. Let's take a look at those. So these are the actual firearms of the individuals that you've got listed in here with the documentation.
Yes. So each case tells a little bit about the owner. You know, some of the guns, they engraved their names in them or initials. Most of them were acquired through third-party sources, not even just like descendants, but like other parties.
Kit Carson's. They're down in Fort Garland, Colorado. They got some of Kit Carson's accoutrements that he had as well. They've got the fort there that he was actually the commandant of. I imagine these things probably get a significant amount of attention. I mean, that's Red Cloud itself, and there was a lot of significance that had to do with the Fort Robinson at the agency over there, correct?
Yes, I don't know how involved Red Cloud was specifically. They get a lot of attention because these are names people recognize. Mm-hmm. But we do have some weapons over here that one of them is captured from the Cheyenne outbreak at Fort Robinson.
Right.
This is the Chief Factor sword I talked about earlier. It belonged to Dr. John McNabb. His initials are engraved on the other side. And through that is how we were able to trace his service record.
And then from 1790 to 1820, he was the chief traders.
Yes.
For the Hudson Bay Company.
Yep.
And the significance of the Hudson Bay Company is fairly broad because it was all across the North American continent. In Canada, the United States, which a lot of it wasn't the United States at that point in time, but do you get a lot of Canadians that have come down because of the fur trade era side of things?
No, not too many, actually. We don't get a lot of, not that they point out at least that they're Canadian.
Exactly. And that's tobacco.
That's tobacco.
Before they had to put labels on it. Pair of Hudson Bay Company officers' pistols. Let's take a look at the room that's got all of the Hudson Bay blankets. So we're in the Hudson Bay blanket area, the point blankets, correct?
Correct, yeah. This is our textile room. So this is where we showcase all of our clothing and textiles. We have a lot of our native beadwork in here and our furs.
So give us a little bit of rundown on what you know about the Hudson Bay side of it.
Okay, so I don't know much about the Hudson Bay specifically, but these are point blankets, and they're called that because the little lines that are sewn into them are designate the size of the blanket. These were actually shipped over from England, and they arrived as doubles, which is what you see here, these really long ones, because blankets were taxed individually. And so they shipped them as doubles and cut them apart when they got to the States and sold them
circumventing the
as two.
taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they came from 4-point, which is about the size of a current king-size blanket, and they all go all the way down to a half-point blanket. And that's about a baby blanket.
That's not a baby blanket.
No.
It's just a half point. And do they have the variety of colors that you see? I mean, those are authentic colors?
Those are authentic colors, yeah. I mean, the standard one is the white with the blue stripes. But as popularity gained, you see a lot of capotes, which are a type of coat that are made out of the reds.
Right.
And people really love this rainbow colored one.
You see a lot of those in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the old one that you said.
We have the oldest known point blanket still in existence, which is this one here, and it was issued to the Massachusetts Minutemen in 1775.
It's had its better days, but it's cool that it's still, if it could tell a story, there'd be a lot of story there.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of the other stuff that you got, I mean, you get into a different section of the Native American crafts.
Right, so the museum focuses on the material culture, the items that were traded back and forth. And so this Native American section, it shows how they used the items into their normal everyday life.
It's a fabulous historical display. Well, we hope that this sort of outreach gets you a little bit of recognition, because part of what we're doing in Colorado at the same time is talking about the fur trade, the historical and the traditional side of things, but just trying to give people an idea that this isn't something that just started 20 or 30 years ago. This is 500, 600, 700 years in the making. Absolutely. You have a book out there that says When Skins Were Money, and I don't think that people really understand the intricacies of the historical side of this, that, you know, now you look at what I would consider to be the animal rights community that tries to get people to believe that this is something that just happens because of we're bloodthirsty killers wanting to turn around and extirpate populations. This shows that this is a sustainable deal, especially when you get into the science-based wildlife management side of it. And they weren't concerned about that then. They were concerned about sustainability because they depended on it. But this is something that's been going on for centuries. And it's cool to see that the preservation of this and the storytelling of this is pretty remarkable.
Well, the fur trade part is what we see, the trading of the furs, but they used almost every part of the meat. So it wasn't just taking the animals for their fur-bearing properties.
They were using everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Even buffalo tongue was a delicacy.
I've actually eaten buffalo tongue. There's a lot of pieces that are hundreds and hundreds of years old.
There's several pieces in the collection where there's only 1 or 2 known in existence also.
So as we were talking, you know, I was trying to explain, a lot of people think about the mountain man era, about a 20 or 25 year period. And you sit on 5 acres here. You got thousands and thousands of pieces, a couple hundred different display cases. You got accoutrements and accessories all over the place. This is kind of like a blink of an eye out of the historical side for the fur trade era, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it is your stereotypical fur trade picture, but it's so minor in the whole story.
That's an interesting piece there that wouldn't be legal in Colorado anymore. Nova Scotia sealing gun, about 1815. It's an 88 caliber bore that weighs around 16 pounds. There's a 75 caliber as well.
They were strong people using these weapons.
Yeah, they had to be. And there's a lot of people that they weren't excessively large in stature either. So they were carrying around guns that were a lot bigger than what normal people would shoot.
Well, and not just weight, they're long.
Yeah. My wife was looking yesterday and she's like, these are like taller than me. So we're here at the beaver hat part of the display. Give us a little bit of background on this.
So a lot of the Midwest Nebraska fur trade started as beaver. But it got to the point where trapping beaver is difficult. It takes a lot of work. You have to trap them, drown them. Sometimes you have to swim up into their dens and pull them out. Tribesmen didn't like doing that.
Tribesmen didn't like doing that.
That's why it turned to a lot of the buffalo, because they were on the plains. You could shoot and hunt that way. But they were also, I mean, buffalo were great. Lap robes, again, a big draw. The reason they did it was for England. They wanted these things, the fancy people who could afford it. So that's also where these hats come in, is they would take the beaver. This is beaver. And beavers have 2 layers of fur. There's the outer fur that you see and then a softer inner layer. And they would shear off the outer layer and use that inner layer and mat it and go through the felting process and making hats.
So no different than what they're doing with cowboy hats today.
No, not really.
Yeah.
This is where the Mad Hatter terminology came in, because they used mercury to make the hats, and because of the chemical involved in that, and the hatting process is where...
That's where the Mad Hatter phrase came. Really? Obviously, they don't do that any longer.
No.
Pretty cool. So once people have done a little bit of their tour, spent a couple hours here looking at all the accoutrements and accessories and the history and stuff, you do have a gift shop, a little bit of a souvenir style deal, but there's a lot of antiques and stuff in here as well.
So as I said before, the museum is self-funded, basically donation sales. So being able to sell collection pieces when we get something, a better example in our collection, we then sell the duplicates to the public to help fund further collecting. And so that's what a lot of this is. It's antiques, original pieces that just weren't quite up to par with some of the other stuff we had. We also have jewelry, and it's all native made. Most of it does come from the Southwest, but we do have some local stuff from the Pine Ridge Reservation. Otherwise, everything is, we try to keep it Nebraska or local made, other than the publications.
And you have a pretty good array of books, the historical side of the books here as well.
Yeah, we try to keep a little bit for everybody. And there's always new publications coming out about specific people or different aspects of research we had never considered.
And obviously I had to buy a few things out of here yesterday. Then you got a few textiles, and you got some other accoutrements and accessories.
So we have some Hudson Bay blankets for sale. We had those in the collection at one point as a big blanket bundle and decided that it would be more beneficial to sell the individual blankets. But in our collection, we have 5 pieces of fabric that were specifically chosen by William Clark after the Lewis and Clark expedition. He became the Indian of the Office of Indian Affairs agent. And he chose 5 fabric samples. We have the originals in our collection, and we had reproduced 2 of them, and we sell. Well, we're down to one fabric sample left, but we do have some shirts in the original other one.
That's pretty cool. It's an exact reproduction of what was there. If anybody's interested in the historical reenactment side, we were here yesterday, and a gal who was a quilter said, well, I think I might need some of those just to turn around and blend it with my quilts.
And as I said in the library earlier, we do put our own publications out. So we have the 6-volume encyclopedia set, but then we have these books here, which are sketchbooks. It's kind of like a pattern book for different clothing and textiles and era those era type of things that they would have used, that people used to make costumes.
So are these available online as well?
Yes.
They are.
Yep.
We'll include that information on here. I'm sure your sales will just increase tremendously right before Christmas.
That'd be great. We close at the end of October, so it would give me something to do.
Well, maybe we can strike a business relationship up that if you guys find benefit to it. I just want to thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are busy, and we came in yesterday, and you were on your own. I didn't want to bug you, but we're here for the Fur Harvesters Convention for the Nebraska Fur Harvesters in Chadron, and they're talking about having it here next year as well. So if they decide to do that, we'll probably end up coming back. But I'm thinking about trying to do as you said, the Fur Trade Days in July.
Yeah, second weekend in July, and that's the first time hearing about doing it next year, but that would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
Traffic was wonderful numbers yesterday
was
for
it?
This time of year.
Good,
so.
Good. Well, the people there are very interested in it. Now, are you working all weekend too?
I'm here the next couple days.
Are you?
Yes.
I was going to say, if you got a chance, you could head over to the fairgrounds and take a look at what's over there as well. It's the modern day side of it, but there's a lot of people there that are interested in the historical and the traditional side as well. So, well, once again, we appreciate you taking the time. Look forward to maybe striking up a professional relationship. And if there's anything we can do for you, we would love to be able to, partner with you in whatever capacity.
That sounds wonderful.
Cool. We appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
Make sure you guys hit the Museum of the Fur Trade in Chadron, Nebraska. And you can see this is just a small glimmer of what they actually have. And we haven't even gone to the outside of it. But this is something that everybody should include on their vacation stop when they're coming through and working their way back and forth to the Black Hills or traveling across the upper Midwest.
If you want to support a company that supported the efforts to defeat Proposition 127, then you need to support Davis Tent. Davis Tent has provided quality canvas goods for outdoorsmen for the last 50 plus years. For more information, go to davistent.com. If you want to support another business that was instrumental in helping us defeat Proposition 127, check out Salida Gun Shop. Salida Gun Shop in Salida, Colorado provides quality products, expertise, and knowledge from individuals that actually do what they sell. Go to salidagunshop.com. Listen to the advice of Cameron Haynes and support companies that are supporting your cause and your efforts. Minturn Anglers is one of those companies. Minturn Anglers provides product and fishing excursions in Colorado and are second to none. For more information, go to minturnanglers.com.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Through the Gates. For more content like this, make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on all of our channels.